Welcome back to another episode of the Sky Society podcast. Today, I'm interviewing a very special guest and a little bit of a different episode than what we normally do. So today, I'm chatting with Sydney Fishback. She is a marketing coordinator at Abodu, and she was part of our very, very first Sky Accelerator cohort, like way back 2 years ago when it wasn't even called Sky Accelerator. And now she has been working in marketing for, I guess, the same amount of time, about 2 years now. So super excited to talk about what you've learned along the way. So welcome, Sydney.
Hello. Happy to be back.
Happy to be chatting with you again, too. So Sydney, before we jump into everything, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. I live in the Bay Area. Let me start this over again. That was really hard. Yeah, I am a marketing coordinator at Abodu. But aside from that, I live and was born and raised in the Bay Area. That's where I currently live right now. More so in the South Bay. So I think when everyone thinks of Bay Area, not San Francisco, just a little outside San Francisco. And yeah, I think outside of marketing, I play volleyball. I'm really close to family and I love brunch. So some of those main key points about me. And then as far as what I do at Abodu, I am a marketing coordinator for pretty much an early stage startup. So think like jack of all trades, wearing many hats. I primarily work between brand, social, or within brand, digital, and supporting in any other initiatives as far as like PR, but primarily work a lot more in brand. So that really is like events, partnerships, and social. And then anything else that can fall into that umbrella. So it's a lot of fun, very fast, and ever so changing.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to dive into what it's like working at a fast-growing startup, just starting that as your first job out of college, because that is a very unique experience. And like you said, you wear a lot of different hats and are constantly changing what you're doing, moving really quickly. So excited to jump in there. But before we get into all of that, you first off, you graduated college mid-pandemic. So you graduated from UCSB mid-pandemic. You then ended up joining Sky. Well, back then it had a different name, but what is now called Sky Accelerator, which is our digital marketing boot camp. And you were part of our first cohort. So it looked so different back then. But can you tell me a little bit about what it was like applying to jobs in like one of the worst job markets? Because like COVID just came out of nowhere as a huge storm. And that was when you were looking to, start your post-grad life. So what was that like for you?
Yeah. I think the job process was definitely something that was nonlinear for me. I remember after college in general, I was in this space of just wanting to take a break, even with the pandemic going on. I think that I wanted some time to just myself before I approached that monster. And I think it's more of like, I'm definitely the type of person who has a hard time with change and like the unknown and not having control of the situation. So I was like, I'm just going to take some time to breathe, and it'll be there when I attack it. So I did take like maybe a month, if that, maybe like two, to just hang out with family and relax. I mean, there was nothing more we could really do during that time. But I found myself wanting to take online courses. Naturally, I was trying to pivot what I was doing in college, which I had some experience in brand awareness and social media, but how can I really translate that into a further career and hone in more experience? So found myself doing a lot of like Google certifications, HubSpot, or just seeing whatever was free online. And then when that led me to Sky Society, I think that just really solidified what I was looking for during that time. So when you talk about job applications, I was then in that mindset after I took a break, like, okay, I'm ready to hit the ground running. What do I need to do in order to kind of hone in those skills? And so when I came to Sky, I think job applying in general was just very tough. I think from the time I started and the time I found a job, I mean, I should say by the time we ended the cohort, which I believe was maybe I know that's a different timeline, but from now, maybe from today's cohort that you have or like the program, but generally speaking, it took me a while. I felt like we were going through periods where there was just nothing being posted on LinkedIn, and we were competing as entry level applicants with senior level applicants who are applying for entry level jobs, which was really difficult.
Yeah.
And just with everything being so lucrative, it all the applications that we were applying to, they just weren't very, I wouldn't say I was very motivated by them, but we were like, okay, what are we going to do? At the time I was really close with our cohort. I know it was 6 of us, and I think that really helped during that period of time. I know in COVID in general, it was, nothing was open. I mean, this is at a time where people, like, restaurants were still shut down. It was
Yeah.
only takeout. You couldn't really meet people for coffee. My living situation was pretty sensitive. Just I had multiple high risk family members in my household, so I was really limited with what I could do. And so for me, coming to class every day or showing up every day to apply for jobs was almost that was my social life. So in a way, it was really fun, and it was great to be able to bounce ideas off. And that really pushed me, I think, to be accountable and stay disciplined. So in that sense, it was easy because I wasn't just doing it for myself. I feel like I was also being motivated for other people. Like, if I'm doing okay, she's going to do this too. Because ultimately I was, I think we were all there to meet the same goal, which is to get a job. And I knew that if I wasn't doing my part, then, that's not helping my girlfriend out either. So it was tough. I think there were definitely ebbs and flows where, you think everything's going great and then things are not. I definitely remember going to a period of, I was getting a lot of interest. And I think at that point, I had also gained more confidence in myself. I remember having to do a couple different projects and they weren't leading nowhere. So that was really disheartening. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of it came from, okay, I did that project, I learned from it. And I just feel like that was just another tool I can add in my belt so that when I'm approaching the next job, I was like, okay, well, I have that confidence going in already. So I never really looked at it as like a negative thing. If anything, just taking the positive situation out of that outcome. And that's usually kind of how I think, generally speaking. It's a lot easier said than done. But at that point, I knew that the right thing was going to come down the road, and it did. And when that did happen, I feel like there were a lot of opportunities just being thrown at me at once, to the point where it was so overwhelming. But it's like, how do I stay calm in this sea of chaos? But yeah, I'm like looking back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so overwhelmed. But I remember being so excited, and it was great to be able to share that with a lot of the girls I was doing the cohort with as well. So
yeah. I think even now, and I think what I learned from that first cohort was that the community part of it is so important. And now, having done a lot of cohorts after you, I've noticed that the cohorts where they do get like close with each other and when they do really connect are more likely to get hired. Like, it's so crazy. And I really think it's like what you said of like having kind of that accountability aspect, or like seeing other girls like go through it, and then like you're not in it alone. And it's, I think, a lot easier to give up when you are just doing it by yourself. But like our cohort that just graduated like 2 months ago, like I think there's 10 of them, 7 are already hired within like
that's
2 months of
awesome.
graduating, which is insane.
That
And I
is
think
insane.
so much of it comes from that like community aspect of kind of what you touched on, is like the secret sauce that was like unexpected from the cohorts, but like actually I think ended up being like the most helpful for everyone going through it.
100%. I mean, I definitely like a social, I mean, like many people,
Social
right?
butterfly
Social
was like
butterfly.
your
I'm
whole
always saying
theme on
that.
your
I know.
on
I'm
your
like,
portfolio.
it's so archived, but like, yes, it's very much that, like, I mean, I always grew up in like sports. So, and like generally I particularly thrive in collaborative settings like that. I almost found myself like, can we talk about something? Let's get on a FaceTime. Like, and we just find ourselves talking about our portfolio or talking about Canva and like all these fun little things. So I think it is really fun. And I mean, from that cohort, I mean, I still talk to a lot of those girls today, and one of them is my best friend. So it's great. And I think definitely I'm happy to hear about the quick turnaround, by the way. That's amazing. I think I'm like, look back, I'm like, wow, I wish I had that quick turnaround, but I can't blame that. It's more of
I
like just
know
what's out there. So I'm happy
the
to
job
hear that like
market
it's
does
so
play a
much
big
better.
role. But yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. You guys did graduate in a different time. And also too, the cohort have like the way we do the curriculum now is every single cohort it gets better and better just because we learn every single time from each one. But yeah, that one specifically was exciting. And I like because your cohort when I started it was literally in like mid pandemic. And I think and I remember with you, I actually remember with you, Sydney, I remember when you called me specifically, you went from like a very like low period of like, I'm not getting anything. And then to all of a sudden getting, I remember you calling me about both of the job offers you ended up getting like at the end.
I do.
And it does happen. It's happened literally just for 2 other students where it goes to this point where they're like, Natalie, I'm having burnout. Like I'm going to take a break from applying to jobs. Like it's too much. And then it's like right after that burnout comes like, okay, oh my gosh, now I have multiple job offers. And so sometimes it's literally just kind of like pushing through and not giving up.
Totally.
So starting at Abodu, at a fast growing startup, what were some of the things that were like maybe a little bit of a shock going from, post grad to now being fully employed in a fast paced startup?
Yeah. I think, my only concept of a startup or what I hear from people when they're like, it's so fast paced. And you're like, okay, like, what does that mean? You hear young, you hear like, there's like this fun culture. Like those are all those things that I hear about. I mean, you watch them. I mean, I think it's the internship. Like you think like, okay, these are like, is that the kind of the vibe I'm going to get? But at the end of the day, I didn't know. And I think also still going back into the workforce, still kind of coming off the transition of the pandemic was also another factor. Just being in the office again, being around people. I didn't realize like how much I missed being around people. I do think that being in the office was very, it was just very important for me at the time. I didn't realize being able to help adapt to the culture and being able to know people quickly. I found myself feeling more immersed within our company that way. It was a lot quicker just to get to see everybody, even just seeing people on a daily basis. I feel like that was super helpful. But generally speaking, going into it, I was very overwhelmed. I think I was the youngest person at our company and we were a pretty young company already. And I think there was just a lot going into that of like wanting to impress and, this is like a great opportunity where I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally did it. Now I'm here. But now I'm really overwhelmed and I'm feeling very scared because I don't know anything, or at least that's what I feel. Like I don't know anything. And it's just very much playing catch up. But I think going into that, it was just being a sponge. Okay, you're not going to know everything. That's okay. And it's just going to take time. And once I kind of came over that realization, it really helped. And thankfully, at that time of when I started with the company, I was one of the first 2 hires on the marketing team. So our current brand and creative lead, he was the other hire. So him and I are going through this together. And this was also a new experience for him. So it was really nice to have that camaraderie with him and be able to share this new experience together. So I think in that sense, it eased the transition. I think ultimately though, as you go looking at like from a skill set orientation, I felt very confident going in already. I think that, in college, I had some prior experience. I've always had an interest in brand, particularly. And then I think with Sky Society, I just honed in that confidence a bit more. Where I know what the curriculum may be different now, but at the time, it was a great way for me just to be introduced to various topics. And I think kind of pinpoint what I was really interested in. And then through that, I remember towards the end of my job process, job looking, process, just doing various projects where I felt like, okay, I know how to do this. And then, I mean, Natalie, you remember, I was just like, hey, can you take a look at this? And at
Yeah.
that point, I already knew how to approach the problem and kind of had that general framework of, okay, this is how I'm going to attack this. And I think this is the best move. And then I can share that with you. Before I was, a deer in the headlights, not really sure how we would go about that. So I think coming into the startup, I was like, okay, one, there's a reason why I'm here. And two, like I'm super eager to work, to work and do whatever and like learn. And I think I was really in love with the brand side of our company. So that made me really passionate to be able to just, okay, I know what I've done before, and I know I have a general foundation that can help me pave the way while I'm here at this company. Um, I think the one thing that took some time to realize is when you think startup, it's why it's so fast paced is because this is an opportunity for you, like as in myself, to just kind of find ways in which how you can help create better systems or and processes. I think that was something that was new to me. Everything's not perfect in a startup. I think that's the whole point. It's a startup, everything's changing constantly. Some things will not work. And it's like, how do I adapt to that really quickly? And I think that's something that um, has been fun and rewarding when you're able to try something and be like, okay, that's not working. And I also have an input. I feel like there are a lot of conversations where I've been in where I feel like it's super collaborative, and I've been able to make that suggestion or find ways to provide a solution. Whereas I don't know what it would be like anywhere else. And I feel like there's a lot of thought freedom there,
Yeah.
which I think has been very impactful and allowed me to grow significantly. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you touched on so much there, and I think that that confidence piece definitely just comes with time. There's so much imposter syndrome you'll have for your entire career, but especially when you're just starting out, of like there's a part of you that's like, I know it, I did stuff in school, I graduated from this boot camp, I've done these projects, and then there's another part that's like, oh my gosh, I'm like way over my head here, like this is really intimidating. And so I think just like what you kind of said there, like coming to peace like with that imposter syndrome and knowing that, okay, not everything is going to be perfect, but I'm going to learn a ton, which I think is one of the benefits of working at a startup, is that you do get to touch so many different things. You do get to be collaborative, you get to have input. And I think that is what makes it so exciting. But also paired with overwhelm of having a million different tasks to do, wearing a million different hats, and always, having to do so much. But with you, I'd love to hear a little more about some of the ways that you feel like that you've grown. Like now looking back, like Sydney, 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, starting your job at Abodu to now, what are some of the biggest ways that you think that you've grown?
Yeah, it's a great question. Sometimes it takes a moment to like step back and figure out, wow, like right now, I think I've been going through an exercise of just looking at some of the things that I've accomplished, specifically with I was meeting for coffee with Kira, who is also in the Sky Society cohort with me, and we are always talking. I mean, she's like one of my best friends, but we always talk about work, and it's really helpful just to, like, for us to kind of share those experiences. But while we were just talking about what we've done, it made me go back and be like, wow, like I really did that, I think that I really think that the growth in me has been that confidence, and being a bit more sure of myself. I'm still working through that naturally, so, but from the start to now, when I say that I'm working cross functionally. A lot of the times I'm handling those conversations. It's definitely, as a marketing coordinator, having, um, leveling up and managing up at times, which, that's definitely something I've been learning the last like couple months, and is intimidating, but I have a great support system within my team that allows me to have that opportunity to do that. And I think that I've also just really tried to lead with compassion with a lot of my conversations. At the end of the day, I also have a great support system who are always there for me. And I think that's been really helpful as I've kind of navigated this post grad life. I mean, there are times where I'm like, I don't know where I'm going, and I still feel very overwhelmed. Um, but I think that's totally normal. I think there's just sometimes I'm still very new in my career and figuring out what that looks like and trying to hone in on the now. I know I say hone in, but like really just focusing on the now, but at the same time, still thinking about like what that could look like and what I want to grow into. So in that growth aspect, I think holistically, just one, now that I've been able to have more opportunity in working some of these projects, I mean, that confidence has just really even skyrocketed more, as I've just, you know, started doing a lot more things that I've been really interested in. And also just things that just giving me some exposure that I haven't had in the past. Because I'm touching so many things, I'm really getting to see what I really, really like or what I gravitate towards. And some other things where I'm like, okay, that's not my favorite, but I love having that visibility and seeing how this works, or, seeing how this contributes to on the marketing side. I think that's really valuable, very much still. And yeah, I feel like that growth is a lot of how I feel about my self-worth too. And like I said, it's not linear, but I think there are days where having that support system it comes in very strongly. And the people that I work with are phenomenal and made it so much of an ease to show up every day. And I think if anything, it's very much similar to that community aspect. Like I love working with them. If it weren't for my team, like, I don't know, like, and my team and our company, like there's just so many amazing individuals that I think it make it really easy to want to show up, and make me feel very proud to like work with that kind of team just because they're so talented. So
Yeah. One of the things that, I mean, although the curriculum has changed, like the core is still like is the same. And one of the things that we talked about with your cohort, I don't know if you remember, but is that circumstance matters more than subject matter when it comes to career contentment. And it's still something that I spend a lot of time teaching on, because like your employee, like who you work with matters so much. Like those are the people that you're spending every single day with, that you're talking with, that you're interacting with. Those are the people that are hopefully supporting you. And if you're not in an environment like that, that is absolutely like detrimental to your mental health, to your performance. And so all of those circumstances around your job are often what make you feel excited, or what make you want to show up every single day. And so I think it's awesome that you've been able to find that at Abodu, and that you've been able to grow and do so many different things. And I think that what you mentioned about having more of that self-confidence in yourself is the best outcome, because that's something that no one can take from you. That is, you going and realizing like, wow, I can actually do all of these things. And yeah, I'm sure there's days when you're not feeling that way, which is totally normal, but I love hearing that that's a way that you feel like you've grown a lot.
yeah, me too. I mean, 100%. I'm like thinking as you're like saying that, I'm like, it's not the only thing that's grown. I'm sure like when I look at actual projects, I'm sure that things have evolved in my skill set, but that's definitely the biggest thing that I think comes to mind, that I think leads first.
Yeah.
And I think with that, it naturally brings everything else under it. So I would agree.
And now, having gone through this, having had to find a job in the hardest job market, having been doing a marketing coordinator for over a year now, what advice would you give to recent graduates looking for a job, or for someone who's young and just starting out in their marketing career?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very much in the new stages of my marketing career, right? But I think biggest thing is don't look for the perfect job. I think sometimes we can find ourselves like like it's okay to have aspirations and dream goals. And I think but don't close opportunities or be so like very narrow-minded that you're not looking at something from the larger picture, and look at it from a stance of what's going to allow you to grow the most or create opportunity for yourself. And I think um, that's something that when you're doing job apps, I know that there's going to be some that may stand out to you, and there's going to be some that you're like, I have no idea what this is. That is okay. Like, definitely look more into the ones that you're not really sure about, like from the eye test. I call it the eye test. I mean, we know there might be some brands you'd love to work with, but from a job perspective and like what you're able to bring, especially being so new to the workforce, look at it as like, okay, this is an opportunity for me to be a part of some fun projects, or like, what can I implement here? Or and maybe it's because I'm like the team startup right now, and I think it's been a really fun way coming out of college. But yeah, don't get lost in the this isn't meeting every single checklist, but more of how is this going to be a great bridge for me in the next couple of years, as I'm just starting to learn more in this space.
I love that. I think that I see this with most of the people that graduate from Sky Accelerator is initially everybody wants to apply to all the jobs at the cool big companies. And then kind of like reality sets in of like, okay, those jobs, you know, have so many applicants. A lot of the jobs are probably being filled through like referrals and recommendations and not just like the entry level applicant applying cold off. But what you said there, I think I always like to phrase it as prioritize, like look for jobs you think you can learn a lot. Like those are the types of jobs that I think are best when you start out. And like for you working at Abodu and in this startup environment where you got to just touch so many things, you got an opportunity to learn so much and also figure out more about yourself. Like one of the cool things within the accelerator, like you mentioned, is you get to figure out what you want to do. And I think the best way to figure out what you want to do is figure out what you don't want to do. And I think part of that is just trying so many new things. And so I love that about you said of, yeah, when you're looking for a job, be open-minded about those opportunities. And like what Sydney and I were just talking about, it's also like the people that you work with. So an interview process may not be the most interesting job on paper, but in the interview, you may really, really get along with, you know, the people that you're talking to and your future boss. So those are all other things that are important to consider.
100%. I mean, I'm looking back, I remember when Abodu popped up, I think, and I've told my coworkers this, it was definitely it was an easy apply on LinkedIn. I remember looking and I was like, okay, this looks interesting. I think it didn't pass my eye test at first because I remember I was looking for something that was a bit more flexible, but I was like, you know what, this could be a great opportunity. I remember I was also, my support system was like, you know, it could be really beneficial for you to be in the office. I don't think you realize that. And I was like, you know, at the time working from home all the time, it was really easy to be like, I don't know. I mean, fast forward now, I have a pretty flexible schedule, which is amazing. And I'm really appreciative of that. But I think then I was so like closed off in some ways. But I then, you know, after speaking with my boss now, who was interviewing me at the time, I'm like, I have my dogs kind of in the background. Yeah, I think at the time, slowly having those conversations and like, okay, this is what the job entails. I have no idea what this industry is like. This is very fascinating. But all I remember, the things that stood out to me was like, okay, this is a really cool brand. Like I would totally love to work for something like this. What does that look like? And it hit everything that I was already interested in and then some. So, you know, again, seeing that on paper and then now having been here for almost, you know, it's almost, I think it's like a year and a half now. It's been very much in line with what I initially wanted, and having that opportunity just to be like, okay, like here's a prime example. TikTok. I think like one of the things that I do at Abodu is I manage our content calendar. I don't create content, but I work with our brand and creative lead a lot of the times and our head of brand on just sometimes conceptualizing, or I do a lot of the logistics sides of our content shoots. So sometimes I'm there and I'm helping styling, or I'm just there pretty much doing relationship management with our homeowners. And so one of the things that we don't really have too much visibility on, or not even say visibility, just one of the things that's not really like the biggest top of mind is TikTok. And this was a great opportunity for me to just be like, hey, we don't really have anything. And this is an area where I feel like I can just kind of jump in, and it's almost like gray area. Like we have our Instagram, we have all of our other social channels. The way that we have our brand tone and the way that our content looks, it's very clean and very product oriented. So that I looked at this as an opportunity to be like, hey, like, what could I do here that could be really fun and that I can put on for myself as, you know, I'm looking at my career path and being like, okay, this could be a great challenge. And so that's something that I'm actually working through right now of, okay, some people would be like, well, we don't really have a TikTok channel. Okay, well then I look at it as, how can I create and build this channel? And then maybe that could be something that could just thrive on its own, but it's going to obviously take some time. But those are some areas in which there's something that's open and available, and like, how can you capitalize on that? And there's a couple of those different things, like as you kind of go through go through my everyday, but I think that's the most relatable because I think everyone
Yeah.
loves TikTok, and I think it's a fun one, a fun outlet for sure.
I think it's amazing that you're taking initiative to step into those opportunities, because you're also building experience for yourself and like potentially giving yourself the chance to step into a different type of role or to try those new things. It's a really great way to go above and beyond to help your company, but also in like a personal way of like getting that experience for yourself of, okay, can I launch a TikTok account and create content, and how's it going to work? And that's a huge learning opportunity for you as well.
100%.
All right, let's go through a couple rapid fire questions. So you are in the Bay Area. What is your favorite place for coffee?
I'm a tried and true Phil's gal, so it's
Uh,
definitely really hard for me to deviate from my Phil's, especially right now with their seasonal drinks. I'm addicted.
I don't think that there's one in Austin, but I definitely need to go when I'm back in Huntington. I absolutely love it too. I don't know if I've told you this story, Sydney, but the first time I went to Phil's, they have all the different like coffees you could get, and it says the notes underneath, like chocolate or whatever. And when it said whatever, one of the ones I chose had an undernote of chocolate, and they like let you taste it and ask you if it's okay. And I was like, oh, can I get more chocolate in it? And they're like, that's just the undertone of the bean. There's not actually any chocolate in it.
That's
And
funny.
that was my first time at Phil's, and I was like scarred and did not want to go back in there ever again.
It is an intimidating, process, I think, from a or not even the user experience, from just the customer experience. If anyone doesn't know, like Phil's, you just walk in and you pick something on the menu, and it's almost this unsaid thing of, if you want it hot or iced, what size you want, how sweet you want it. And you just kind of go through this list of customizations that if if this is your first time, it's not very easy for you to pick up on that. Usually, when you go to a menu, you're just like, hey, I want this. And yeah, that's it. But I think it takes some time. I think it takes some practice figuring out what you want. And usually most of the workers that I've had a great experience with people who have worked at Phil's. I do love though that you don't have to pay extra for any sort of customizations on like milk options or anything like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's nice. I know my
Yeah.
Starbucks drink gets expensive
It's
like
expensive.
fast.
I know. When you're like, oh, can I add this and I add that? Yeah. So I think on that perk, it's great. And if you're also not sure, I think what's helped, at least for some of my friends who might just have like a lot of, there's people that might have social anxiety with just ordering and you're not sure. Do it from the mobile app. It makes it so much easier, and they outline it in a very seamless way. And then if you get there and they're like, oh, do you want to change it? Usually the only thing you can change is like sweet. Just say like, can I have it like a little bit sweeter? Or they could put cocoa powder on it right now. So if you like things with chocolate, you could try that.
Nice. So now I could have actually got more chocolate on in mine if I would
Yeah,
have
now
done
you
it.
can. I was like, now they have like cocoa powders. I was like, I don't know, but
I
gotta
feel like
do
we
it.
just had a little Phil's ad. It's not an ad.
I know.
But
I love Phil's. It's so bad. I'm like trying to save money. I'm like, don't do it, Sydney. Don't do it.
I know my coffee machine broke, and I went and got there's a little coffee shop next to me, and I got a latte, just like it was like a gingerbread latte or something, and it was $9. And I was like, this is unsustainable. Like I need
Oh,
to fix my
wow.
coffee machine.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's like
tough.
that's a
That is
meal.
tough.
Okay, who is your favorite social media influencer right now?
Right now, I would say I like one of the, I have so many niches that I follow, but right now I'm loving, her name is Monet Michael, I believe. Monet Michael is her last name. She's a beauty influencer. Um, she's on TikTok. She does more of like a vlog style. I just love her. She's so fun to watch, and definitely like completely polar opposite personality than mine. But she's just so fun. So I think her, and then it's hard for me to like pick one. The other one would be something that's like it's a family. It's not as like curated, I would say. Like they're called the Aguilars. They're so funny. Um
Oh,
it's cute. I mean, it's not like when you think of like the typical YouTube families. It's not that. It's like it's run by their oldest daughter, and she's maybe, in college, and she just capitalizes on her family, and they're just fun personalities. So it's pretty cool. So
uh,
definitely those two. And I think they're on, I watch them, I mean, it's mainly TikTok now. I feel like a lot of the
yeah.
influencers that I'm following. So yeah.
All right. Those are two good ones. That's a good idea, which I feel like if TikTok existed when I was still living at with my family, I have 5 younger siblings. And
Hmm.
I always would joke that I was like, we could easily have our own reality TV show with like all the craziness that like happens in this family. That if TikTok existed, that would have been like a fun way to, like you said,
100%.
capitalize on it.
Yeah.
All right. What is your biggest tip for being a better employee?
I think get to know your coworkers. Um I think that's really important when it comes to not just the work culture, but your familiarity with everybody and how comfortable you are. I think when I don't want to say when problems, but when you want to collaborate and you're working with other departments other than your own, having that familiar face is really important. I think when you're entering those conversations, I think it kind of eases things. And if you haven't had a one-on-one with people, that's totally okay. I think because I've been in the office, I haven't had one-on-ones with everybody. Sometimes it's not as easy as it was, but have that lunch with that person in the kitchen and like get to know them a little bit better. I feel like that really helps the work environment. And it makes those conversations less stiff when you're like talking about an initiative and like how are we going to collaborate on this. So I would say that. And then again, um, being somebody that's younger in in the workforce is just don't put so much worth on yourself if like some of those things are not going right. I think when I say that is, and this is actually from one of my other coworkers, she's someone on my team, and she is phenomenal. She's quite a few years ahead of me. But still like she was in college not too long ago. And I think she said that to me, of like, don't always don't equal your work with your self-worth all the time. And I think what she means by that is sometimes things are not going to go well. And it's really hard to not think of yourself as like, oh my gosh, I suck, or like I'm just not like things are just not going right. And that's okay. But it shouldn't be a reflection of how you are as a person. And I think that's really important as somebody who myself is like a perfectionist. I'm constantly finding ways that I want to better myself, but also, you're very impressionable right now. And I think it's really easy to just like get overwhelmed in that. So it's okay to put yourself in check and be like, everything's cool. Like, you don't have to prove yourself constantly every time to everybody. You're here for a reason, and sometimes you just got to go with the flow. So
Yes, I love that you said that. Yeah, it's so difficult, I think, not to tie your self-worth to your work. And it's so, so, so important, though, to be able to separate that. And yeah, you don't always have to be constantly trying to improve yourself. So I love that you said that. Okay, my last rapid fire question for you is, do you have this episode will probably be released early January. We're in December right now, but do you have any New Year's resolutions?
yeah, I've actually been thinking about this for a while. I think ironically, I want to be more punctual. I think
Ooh,
punctuality is something like when I say that, it's also a feeling of I don't like rushing, and I want to go into the new year of just not just being on time, but being early. I think that's going to be something that would be great for me. I have a very loose schedule in general when it comes to going to the office, but it'd be really nice to just not have to like have a constraint. Okay, I'm like really pushing it here, like no one's clocking me in or anything. It's more of a self goal of like, okay, when I want to be at the office or when I want to be meeting up with my friends. And I feel like it's really easy to, be like 5 minutes late to things. And I want to be better about valuing other people's time because I value, I'm pretty loose about it when people are late, but I just for a self personal goal, I would say that that's definitely, I think that was leading in as number one. There was like another one, but punctuality for sure.
That's a good one. I remember for me, it was like I was late for everything my whole life. Like I had like some like crazy number of late in high school. Like I think I was late like 36 times one semester.
Oh,
Like
dang, Natalie.
literally it was so bad. It was so I could not be on time for anything for the life of me. And something switched, like I don't know like when exactly it happened, but like now I am like the exact opposite. Like I'm always the first one, like when I'm with my friends, like with now with the accelerator, like we start exactly at like 9 a.m. like never like even a second late. Like and it wasn't even like now it's not even an effort thing. Now it's almost like an OCD thing for me to where like everything has to be on time. But it's so funny because I used to be the exact opposite, like late for everything.
I mean, I appreciate that though. I think it's really, I mean, I have some friends who are definitely the really late of the crowd. So, but I also have the friends who are there early and I always tell them like, hey, I appreciate you being on time. Because at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
still an effort, I think, for everyone to be there. And I think it's awesome you're able to make that switch. I know I appreciate it from people who are early and I do recognize that. So and hopefully maybe it can like spark some inspiration in some of your friends and keep them accountable when they're like, dang, Natalie's here really early. Like, I really need to step it up,
I
So
hope. I don't
that's
know.
good.
The friends that are late are always just the friends that are late.
They
Like,
are,
and
they
then
are. And
they
it's
like,
just like, I'm just
it's
like,
just,
it's okay. They're gonna get here when
yeah.
they get here.
And now when you get to know your friends, then like, I just know like, oh, I'm hanging out with this. And so it doesn't bother me because it's like, I already anticipate that they're going to be late. So I've already like factored that into my like plan, So like now it doesn't even like for friends, it's like, okay, like I know they're going to be late. Like, and I just know in advance. So, but yeah, punctuality is a tough one.
It is, but it'll be a good one. I think it's something that I think it's not one of those like it's not something that's super like I have to do like so I'm not cutting anything out. I think
Yeah.
I can definitely make the small changes that can really help with that. And I think it is
Yeah.
very attainable. It's
And
just,
the big, like, I feel like result you get from that is less anxiety around things.
100%. I think it's the rush. It's
Yeah.
like, I hate feeling like I'm
Me
rushing
too.
and
Yeah.
it's not a good feeling. And I'm like, it's just also dangerous too, when you're like thinking about like rushing on the road and like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
overall, it'll be good.
All right. Well, I'll be checking in on you.
Thanks.
All right, Sydney. Well, thank you so much. It's been so much fun going through, and I think you shared a lot of really helpful advice and like lessons from what you've learned that'll be really helpful for women who are starting their careers. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.